Chapter 12, 73. Affection Immortal Gu. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Fang Yuan held this jellyfish-like goo in his hand, looking at it. At the next moment, his eyes shined. This was an immortal goo, but he did not know its rank. Because in Reverse Flow River, no goo worm could be used. These goo worms that fell into Reverse Flow River were like fossils. They were sealed, and their auras could not be felt. This made Fang Yuan unaware of the nature of this jellyfish immortal goo earlier, when it was on his face. Only when Bi Chen Tian reminded him did Fang Yuan realize. If this were in the outside world, without Reverse Flow River, immortal goo aura would leak. Fang Yuan would detect it from far away and determine what its rank was. As for what immortal goo it was, that would depend on the goo immortal's own knowledge. This immortal goo seems to be affection goo? Fang Yuan's knowledge was wide. After looking at it, he could guess what this goo was. Wisdom Path had 3 elements: thoughts, wills, and emotions. Since there was love immortal goo, there was also affection immortal goo. Of course one. Fang Yuan's guess was right. Bi Chen Tian could not help but feel anxious. Affection goo was very important to Central Continent's goo immortals. Why? Because this immortal goo was temporarily used in Edgeling Camp. There were many mortal goo along with it. This affection immortal goo, along with many mortal goo, could create a new effect in Edgeling Camp that was to track the location of love goo. Even if love goo was in an immortal aperture, it would not be affected. That was how Edgelink Camp managed to find snowy mountain blessed land. Otherwise, inside the spaceless tunnel, when Love Gu sent Zhao Lian Yun, Yu Yi Zi, Shi Zheng Yi, Bu Zhen Zi, and Mu Ling Lan away, who would know where they went? After adding affection immortal goo and other goo worms, Edgelink Camp could detect love immortal goo and traced it to snowy mountain blessed land. But afterwards, because they fought with old ancestor Shehu and Purple Mountain True Monarch, Edgelink Camp sustained great pressure and took much damage. Before this, due to the long journey and the collapse of the spaceless tunnel, Edgelink Camp was not complete to begin with. And now, after Flood Extremity and Black Extremity activated the goo formation, destroying the main formation, Reverse Flow River flowed out and struck the heavily damaged Edgelink Camp. This way, the immortal goo house broke apart, and the immortal goo and mortal goo inside were all swept away by the water. If this were the outside world, these immortal goo and mortal goo would fly toward the goo immortals who had their wills contained. But inside Reverse Flow River, these goo worms were restricted by the special environment. They were forcefully sealed, hibernating like they were no longer alive. Affection goo was one of the countless goo worms that made up the immortal goo house. Or rather, it was a very lucky one. Because most of the goo worms had flowed along the river and were destroyed by the waves, or crashed into rocks or trees. Goo worms were very fragile. Reverse Flow River became their grave. Of course, there were different types of goo worm body types. Most were broken with one squeeze, but some were like jade or rocks as tough as jade. Affection goo was different. It had a soft body. It could survive even if there was an impact. Evidently, this was how it survived in Reverse Flow River. But after ending up in Fang Yuan's hands, it was not in good shape. The jellyfish body was very tattered. There was a huge injury that was about 1/4 of its size. It was terrifying. Bi Chen Tian's eyes were very sharp. Seeing that Fang Yuan was about to pull away this affection goo, he called out in worry. But after reminding him, he felt great regret. If he did not say it, Fang Yuan might have thrown it away without care or concern. But now, Fang Yuan's eyes were shining. He realized the truth. Bi Chen Tian withheld the unease in his heart as he cupped his fists at Fang Yuan. "Friend, this goo belongs to Central Continent. Why don't you give this immortal goo to me? You will gain the friendship of Central Continent. Is that all right?" Fang Yuan squinted. "I can consider that, but what goo is this? You need to tell me." Bi Chen Tian answered, "This is affection goo, a wisdom path goo worm." Wisdom path goo immortals were rare. Bi Chen emphasized that this was affection Immortal Gu because he thought that Fang Yuan was not a wisdom path Gu Immortal. Affection Gu was not useful to most Gu Immortals after all. It was a waste to give it away, but it was a burden in one's hands. Why? Gu Immortals needed wills as their assistants. Be it in sect meetings or in Treasure Yellow Heaven, any will Gu could be used widely. But mortal-level will Gu could achieve this. There was no need to waste one's effort in raising an affection Immortal Gu. After all, if one was not a wisdom path Gu Immortal, with their conflicting Dao marks, using the Immortal Gu of other paths would have lower effects. At the same time, just affection. Immortal Gu could not form any immortal killer moves. Unless it was an immortal killer move of other paths that needed affection, Immortal Gu, or any special methods that needed it, then the Gu Immortal would desire it. Not all Immortal Gu were popular with people. Gu Immortals had different paths, so did Immortal Gu. Gu Immortals were of rank 6, 7, and 8. So were Immortal Gu. For Gu Immortals, only suitable Immortal Gu had value to them. In the 500 years of Fang Yuan's previous life, during the 5 regions' chaotic war, Gu Immortals often held trading sessions to exchange their Immortal Gu. But Bi Chen would not think that Fang Yuan was the most special Gu Immortal of all. Firstly, he had Grandmaster Wisdom Path attainment level. Such a person had to be considered a Wisdom Path Gu Immortal. Secondly, Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal body did not have conflicting Dao marks. He could cultivate any path. Lastly, Fang Yuan had been fretting over this matter. Even though he had Wisdom Path attainment level and methods, he did not have relevant Wisdom Path Immortal Gu. Thus, this affection Immortal Gu was very important to Fang Yuan. Thus, he placed affection Immortal Gu into the pocket of his shirt. Inside Reverse Flow River, the Immortal Aperture's entrance could not be opened. He had to carry it with him. Bi Chen saw this and his heart sank. His tone was even more anxious. Friend, take out that Immortal Gu. We are not enemies. We can go through a transaction according to what we need. Fang Yuan looked at Bi Chen. We can have a transaction, but not here.